In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his prophets and his messengers and their scriptures. And as a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I could never thank Allah enough for his intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi or guide who came among us and raised from among us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to lead, teach, and guide us into the repair of the condition that 400 years of slavery and injustice has done to us. I greet all of you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Let me first say, I really am so honored to be here on this stage with these wonderful thinkers, warriors, soldiers in the cause of the liberation of our people and the liberation of all oppressed. I want to first thank Dr. Ron Daniels and his wonderful helper in Dr. Dunstan and others for bringing this magnificent event together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One of the most consistent warriors and strugglers for our people, along with Dr. Conrad Worrell, who is always there for us. My esteemed brother, the great pastor, Reverend, there's no words that can express my joy just to have a chance to see him, to hear him, and be on the same stage with my illustrious brother, the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright. Dr. Wayne Watson, warrior, educator, scholar, noble soul that is always struggling to make things better for us as a people. Thank you, thank you. Our great judge, Jean-Baptiste, thank you so much for introductions. My sister from Barbados who came here again. You're from here. You spoke so beautifully. Thank you. And our ambassador and my sister from Detroit and my brothers. But to Dr. Becker, representing the keynote speaker, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, I came here today to listen, to learn, to be inspired, not necessarily to talk. And I find myself so reinvigorated by the beauty of brother's presentation. I like the fact that we were in the slave ship. And I like the fact that you had gone on. Sorry about that. But I like the fact that we, as your children, who stand on the shoulders of those who have paid an horrific price, that we could be here today, that we have a responsibility to our ancestors, to our brother. Is the brother that poured the libation. Where's our brother? Now, brother, I have to tell you, I got chills all over my body. I've seen it done many times. But when you really think about those who went before us and the price that they paid to put us where we are. So the only thing that comes in my heart right now is, what kind of generation will we be to have ancestors that have gone through what our ancestors have gone through, and we're sitting here today talking about the revitalization of a movement that should never have had to be revitalized. I only have a few thoughts, and but I thank God. You know, my family didn't want me to come out today because I just came out of the hospital. It's not known, but I was in a weakened condition. But there was something about today, and this man, Dr. Beckles, and Prime Minister Gonzalez, and this great brother Ron Daniels, that I had to be here in support. But the thought that has come to my heart, I read his book, and his book should be up for us to get and read, on reparations and the debt that Britain owes. But it's a marvelous scholarship. And as I listened to you, Dr. Beckles, I said, see, these are the men and women that have to lay the facts down, because you cannot proceed for justice on assumptions. You can proceed for justice on actual facts, but who will do the research? Who will do the meticulous study? It's the scholars. It's the people that have dedicated their lives to this. And then when they speak, we act. It's not about applause. It's about acting now, because the talk has been done and we talk too damn much and we do too little toward our own liberation. Excuse me. My pastor's here. He'll wash my mouth out with soap. Revitalization means that some of us have lost the spirit of what reparatory justice really means. It's not a one-day thing. It's not a one-week thing. It's a lifelong struggle until the goal is achieved. But here's the problem. Oh, God. You know, Moses and Aaron, they had to go to Pharaoh. Moses was a little terrified. Naturally, I mean, when you got to talk to big bad white folks, you got to have something to go with. And so when Jehovah said to Moses, and I want you to go and deliver this message to Pharaoh, a 10-point plan. But the first part of that plan is let my people go. Now wait. See, when you talk to power, you can't go to power just with a cry for justice. You gotta have power back in your cry, otherwise you get nothing. You should never think that the enemy is going to give you the justice that you seek. We've been crying at his foot for too damn long. We got to have the power to force justice. Cowards will always need revitalization. People who get taken off course because of false promises. Slaves always want to be accepted by their former slave masters. Slaves always want a pat on the back. You're doing good, but don't go too far. Press on, but don't go too far. When I read the book, white governments, they knew the truth that was being presented to them in Durban. Y'all went there to present the truth. And they told you to go to hell. Now, did they do that? Well, then what is our response? To go back and beg some more? That's what got you in the shape you're in. You're litigating your damn self into poverty and want. It ain't litigation, it's revolution that is needed. Excuse me. You lawyers, I'm talking to the legal profession now. See, you're good at what you do. And there is a way through law until you get to those who can draw the law up or expand it as they please. My teacher said, even a devil can do good under the gun. But hell, if you don't have no gun, then the good you seeking stands afar off. What is the gun? That if, no, not if, when these so-called diplomats sit around. See, justice is not diplomatic language. You gotta put your foot where it needs to be put when you're talking about justice. Otherwise, you don't want justice. You want friendship with your former enemy. If you want justice, you got to stand strong on the truth. My pastor, to me, one of the most beloved Christian scholars that we have. I loved the way he started, just for an opening prayer, a paradigm, a reparations. I'm going to do right. I've been robbing, I've been stealing, I've been lying, I've been cheating, but I'm going to give back half. Jesus, some man came to the master and said, Master, what can I do to inherit the kingdom of God? He said, well, do the law of Moses. He said, well, I've been doing that. He said, oh, okay. Well, go home and take all that you got, yes, and sell it. Then take the money you get from it and give it to the poor. The man said, I'll see you later, Jesus. See, all this platitude. Man, let me tell you, reparatory justice. More I'm telling you, man. See, I'm an old man now. I don't have time to pussyfoot around with no truth. I'm too damn old for that. But if you really want to get something out of this, you got to bring something to the table. And the something that you bring to the table first is the strength of the truth of your demand. Was it Frederick Douglass who said, power concedes nothing without a demand? And I would add to my dear brother, yeah, and the demand won't even be heard unless there's power backing up the demand. So if this brilliant scholar and the other scholars and diplomats with him pull the criminals into a room to discuss a 10-point plan, and they say, you know how they talk, what you got? We're not going to do it. What you got to make us do? See? Well, if we backing the scholarship in every city, in every town, in every nation where Africa's children have suffered, realize that this is the time for reparatory justice, then we stand behind them. Now we got to be able to do something to hurt the enemy otherwise, and be willing to hurt him. Don't talk this reconciliation crap. Excuse me. I'm a spiritual man and I ain't feeling too good. But look. How you gonna reconcile with somebody that has done you so evil? And there's, okay, I'm gonna apologize. That's right. These people don't even want to apologize. You gotta fight them to get them to say, I'm sorry. So look at the language. We regret, yeah, see? And then they use a conditional, should have. We should have. Recognize you all differently. We should have. Should is conditional. What is the condition that should have been present that would have allowed them to see us as human beings? See, if you don't want to go to the root of this thing, you can't uproot the tree. It wasn't just Britain. All them white nations were of the same mind. All of them. So one will come and act like they're willing, and the next one plays a good bad cop, and you go home just as confused as ever, ending up with more conferences and discussions and nothing for your people. I'll close with this. This scholar and those with him need backing. They don't need applause. The brilliance of this man's scholarship, the brilliance, the years of sacrifice that they've put in to come up with all the documentation that is necessary, they need bodies now. Men and women, yeah, I'm gonna say it, men and women who don't mind dying for reparatory justice. I mean, okay, Farrakhan is a radical. You're damn right. The situation is radical and it needs a radical solution. All this soft talk is over. Come to the table with truth. Stand up on it like the ancestors would be proud. I'm not leaving the earth as a screaming punk. I speak for the dead who have no voice today. I speak for the living who are voiceless. I speak for the unborn generations who need a voice. And that's the kind of men and women that will make reparatory justice real. Farrakhan, oh, I didn't expect such radical. Okay. No, but look, I'm so inspired by Dr. Beckles and by the beautiful people that have been talking and fighting for reparations. But Pharaoh knew the psychology of the slave. So he sent runners out into all the cities to promise the slave wealth and nearness to him if they would fight Moses. Reparation is strong. Weak people can't stand up for that. So what happened in Durban when I read his book? The leaders punked straight out. Call them out. Kofi Annan didn't do right. Mbeki didn't do right. Even Zuma didn't do right. Call them out. What the hell is wrong with your mouth? When they destroy everything that you went there for? The Caribbean was strong. And we need to back the Caribbean because they are a voice. And so are we to stir them up over there. They punked out. Why they wasn't right? Why? Why do we get to a moment like this and now your language gets diplomatic? See, our people that sell us out, they're not afraid. No, they're not afraid of the justice that Winnie Mandela was ready to execute. See, we're not going to get what we want, I'm sorry, until Uncle Toms and sellouts and all these kind of people, they got to feel the wrath of the common man. What the hell is living in a nice house, driving a nice car, having a little money in the bank when the dollar's falling by the second? Nothing is more important than the liberation of our people. I'm sorry, we just have to stop making excuses for ourselves. What do you want? If you really want freedom, you cannot compromise with slave makers, slave masters, and the collaborators. So all the enemy got to do is offer you a little position, and you forget the suffering of your people. Yes, you can be a mayor. Why, you can be a governor. Why, even I'll let you be a president. Notice the language. I'll let you be. But as long as you're there, you got to be my man, doing my will. Close with this. Jesus said, Reverend, no man can serve two masters. You will love one or you will hate the other. You can't serve God and mammon too. Now, what Dr. Nettles put before us today is well thought out, and he didn't even touch all that his brilliant research and scholarship this man is a walking encyclopedia on what he's talking about. And there are many more with him. So look, all of us are not going there. Let's get that straight. We need unity. We sure do. We need unity with the people who want reparatory justice. We don't need unity with collaborators and pacifiers and people that want to talk it down when it should be talked up strong. We don't need that. And if I'm hurting your feeling, hell, your feeling need to be hurt. Next time, don't bother me no more. If you don't want me to tell you the truth, then leave me the hell alone. Because when you call me, I'm gonna tell it like it is or die trying. Jesus said, two will be laying in the bed. I don't think you can get no closer than that. I'm going to take one and leave one. Two will be grinding at the mill. It's going to take one and leave one. Then the Jesus speaker, he's a real revolutionary. He said, think not that I came to bring peace, nay, a sword. See, division is going to have to come over reparatory justice. Division before unity. Who wants it fall over here? Especially when you find out what it is and the sacrifice it's going to have to make to get it. So I leave you. I pray that God will have the ancestors proud of us, that we know their struggle, we know their pain, we know what they went through to give us what we got. And now we got to be accountable for our generation and leave our children and our grandchildren a future. And the future is reparatory justice. So let's revitalize the movement. And those that don't want to come along, because if there are two or three gathered together in his name, you the majority. So let's go after it. And so, Dr. Ron Daniels, man, I love you, and I thank you for what you gave to Chicago. Oh, wow, this was streamed. This was, oh. Well, y'all got it. Maybe I should have stayed in the hospital, but I'm going to say this. Life, no matter how long it is short. And life, in its nature, is a struggle. And those who do not wish to struggle are dead already. So if You want to live your life and make your life have meaning. Give your life to something bigger than your life. You understand? Give your life for something bigger than your life. And what our doctor said to us today, the 21st century, there'll be nothing bigger in this century than the cry for, the struggle for, and the reception of reparatory justice. And if you wait for others, and I say this because we sometimes don't put God in the equation. He's very real. He's very, very real in this fight. Right now, as we speak, he's taking America down. Now, you don't control no weather. But God is whooping the hell out of America. This dollar that you've been fighting each other over, just falling. So there's another force here that's bigger than him. What happened to Flight 370? You mean a big plane just disappears? See, God is on scene today, baby. All the scientists of the world come together and can't figure this one out. The book said God sits in heaven and laughs at you because your science is weak in comparison to the knowledge that God is exploding on the weak and the poor. So come on, man. Don't you let this conference be a feel-good session. Let's go get Dr. Nettles' book. We'll advertise it in the final call. We'll sell it. We need to understand it, read it, because the Caribbean, where my parents are from, but the Caribbean again comes to the fore. It gave us Garvey. It gave us Patmore. It gave us C.L.R. James. Oh, Lord. It gave us Edward Blyden. A whole bunch of strong folk come up out of the Caribbean. Yeah, Malcolm's mother was from down there. Oh, hell, we owe a debt to the Caribbean. Kwame Ture. So come on, man. We are a family, whether it's Mississippi or Jamaica, Alabama or St. Kitts, St. Vincent or the Grenadines or Massachusetts. This is a family. And wherever we are on the earth, we need to fight for that kind of justice that will repair the damage that the enemy has inflicted on us, that we suffer at this very moment. Please forgive me for overextending my time and for my harsh words. Love you all.
All right, let's hear it for the brother minister. Come on, let's raise the roof. Listen, brothers and sisters, I see some of you are getting ready to leave out. Okay, it's not over. we have to give you the charge. We have to do the final analysis. And those yellow cards that you're supposed to be filling out, fill them out. There are going to be some white baskets in the back. You drop them off there. Okay? Fill those cards out. Because while the leadership will make you conscious, it is you, it is the masses of people who will make history, who will move the process forward. Okay? So at this point in time, we want to bring forward Dr. Ivor Carruthers, General Secretary of the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, to bring us the charge. What does that mean that we've heard all of this, and how do we move forward? So, brothers and sisters who are leaving in the back, we need for you guys to stay disciplined so we could complete this process, okay? Thank you. Dr. Carruthers.
Minister Farrakhan, my pastor Jeremiah Wright, Master Teacher Beckles.
That's right.
Master Teacher
That's
Beckles.
Right. That's right.
And to my co-host, Ron, Wayne, and Conrad. Family, we have gathered, and we called a sacred assembly. But I think what we need to be reminded of is that when you call a sacred assembly, you have to take the risk of hearing from the prophets. And when prophets speak, it may not be comfortable. And so we have heard the word. We have heard no more. Dr. Watson, you knew my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, now ancestors, and you know my mother, and you know they didn't raise a fool. So I ain't gonna be long at all, because I know the word has already been given. But I am reminded that people of African descent and ancestry in Brazil are with us this moment. And when I think about that, I think about my first time going in the 70s, where I was going for two reasons: to meet my family who had expatriated there 2 generations before, and to be a part of a Black liberation theology delegation. And in the course of conversation with our brothers and sisters from Brazil, someone asked, "So what should we do?" And the response was, "You have already done it. By virtue of answering the call to come, you have created a divine space that creates new cosmic energy to propel us forward." And so, beloved family, we have come as members of a sacred assembly. We have heard the prophets. We stand on their truth. And we stand listening to the words of Callie House, who said that we must believe and know that our demand is just. And we must remember the words of Papa Dallas, who from this country spoke as one of the last enslaved persons whose voice you can hear. And he said, "Don't weep for me, my children. Just remember to tell the story to the next generation." And so, Master Teacher, you called us into a vision of a slave ship when we entered. But I want to call us then, as we close, to a vision of a baobab tree. Because a baobab tree can last for thousands of years. And I just ask that we embrace the spirit and the temerity and tenacity of the baobab tree as we live here. And we declare we will stand on the truth with the courage to continue to propel our demand in a radical, revolutionary way. That means we organize our feet, our minds, and our bodies for truth. May we all leave here differently than we came, and may we go with the power of all that is holy. Asante Sana.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carruthers. But we're not ready to go yet. Just hold on for 1 second, because we still need to hear from Dr. Ron Daniels, president and founder of the Institute of the Black World, who the minister has told you about already, who's been a consistent freedom fighter. He wants to give us the closing remarks. Don't forget to fill out the yellow cards, and don't forget to leave that with us. Thank you. Doctor.
Let's give it up for Lionel Baptiste for being a gracious, excellent moderator. Dr. the Honorable Judge, give it up for Lionel Baptiste. Haitian, no less. Well, we appreciate you so much for staying, because I think the master teacher said it would require a couple of things, right? One of them is discipline. Discipline is important. It's been long, but it has not been long. Because if you're going to go into a fight, as Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, we have got to get ourselves, Ari Meredazan, into shape again. There used to be a time when we could go through 3, 4, 5, 6 hours and debate and discuss, but now we in a hurry to leave. We thank you for staying, because it will require that kind of discipline in order to win the struggle ahead. I want to be very quick, however, with a few thank yous. We thank you first and foremost to, this beautiful auditorium, the facilities. We have to thank our president, President Wayne Watson, for giving up all, and his staff that has been so gracious. I want to also say, though he's not here, that this morning we stopped by Operation Push, and we were graciously received by the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, who yielded his radio time to this master teacher so he could teach. Let's give it up for the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. Me and this man have been arguing for 40 years. We've been going back and forth, tit for tat. He cusses, he fusses, he talks all kind of stuff. He out there on the floor now giving directions, but he's my main man. We've been doing this work together for more than 40 years. He's one of the baddest organizers on the planet, Dr. Conrad World. Give it up for him, Dr. Conrad World. Dr. Ivor Carruthers is a genius. She is an authentic genius. She is as Barbara Linda Dunst would say, she is a queen. But she is so brilliant. She is so sharp. Again, for Dr. Ivor Carruthers for being one of the co-hosts. And let's give it up for WVON Radio. Cliff Kelly's in the house. We are here today in part because you heard it on WVON, the radio station who's about liberation. And though John Conyers has left, I want to also just say to him, a freedom fighter. He has put H.R. 40 on the stage every year without fail. Not every congressman has the guts and the courage to stand there as the ranking member of the House Judiciary Committee and the dean of the Congressional Black Caucus and just putting a simple proposition on the table. Shouldn't we study white America? The crimes that have been done and figure. It's very simple. It's an organizing tool. Let's give it up again for Congressman John Conyers, who was here and had to leave. And to, of course, the ambassador who came representing Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who is emerging as the cutting-edge thinker on this issue in the Caribbean. Let's give her another round of applause. And of course, and we were, Brother Minister, we were a little nervous because, the Institute of the Black World 21st Century is small. We don't have a lot of resources. We have people like Barbara Leonard Dunson. I invoke his name again because he's the chair of the Black Leadership Summit, Black Family Summit, which came out of the Millions More movement, by the way, convened by the Honorable Minister Louis. We have kept that tradition. He's not on staff. I'm not on staff. We don't hardly have no staff. This is guts and faith. It's guts and faith. that we try to put on. We got good people who work hard. And so we said, what can we do? We can try to pull together a great program like this, given the nature of what's happening in the Caribbean. And, Brother Don Rojas is a bad brother over there. See, quiet and all this. This is a bad brother over here. This is a revolutionary brother over here. He was not only with the New Jewel Road, he was the press secretary for Maurice Bishop. That's who he is, right? And so he has some good relationships with the people, with other revolutionaries. And so we were honored to be able to get the prime minister. And then we got the word. I was traveling last week, and he said, Ron, I got something to tell you. He said, well, the prime minister won't be able to make it. And I said, oh, my God. Now what are we going to do? He said, but just calm down. He said, that the prime minister is dispatching someone who, in fact, is the intellectual guru, if I could use that term, the person who has crafted the plan. So even though he can't be here, there is no better substitute than the master teacher, Dr. Professor Sir Hilary Beckles. Give it up again for Dr. Sir Hilary Beckles. Give it up again for this man. Give it up again. He came tired all the way from Barbados, revitalized and re-energizing us. Give it up for Sir Hilary Beckles. Yes. And last but not least, in terms of my commendations, the minister who had come from the hospital. We received earlier today, well, he's not feeling too well. He may be able to come for a little while, but maybe he'll have to leave. Didn't matter for us because we were going to accommodate the minister no matter what the circumstances were. But the important point is not only has he come, as you look into the audience, he not only come, I see the believers here. I see that he also helped through the Nation of Islam to mobilize and organize people. When I talked to Sister Kim, she said that we will send the blast out. There was an article in the final call. There was an ad in the final call. He was not just sort of, like conditionally being involved. Because that's not the way the minister rolls, as the young people say. He was all the way in. And for him to come here today and to speak, and Brother Minister, we know how to organize the program. That's why we put you last. We know what we're doing. We know where to put you. So you have all the time you need. And so there is no limit on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let's give up for this freedom fighter, for his courage, his commitment. On your feet for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Always on the case for the liberation of African people. Always there for us. Now, I think that we have done what we had hoped to do. And I say that with all modesty because Emil Carl Cabral says, tell no lies, claim no easy victories. We're not coming up here talking about the Institute of the Black World is this bad organization. We are small. Big ideas, Brother Jamoke. Try to do the best we can. But we said at least we can introduce this into the conversation. So I know that Brother Jamoke sent the word around to Cobra chapters. We know that in Houston, Texas, they're watching the webcast. We know in Atlanta and other cities, at least they're having listening parties. We know the word went out through the drum and that people are talking again in strong terms about reparations. So Hilary Beckles sent the word out through the University of West Indies and all over the campuses in the University of West Indies, they got the word about this reparations forum. So that meant that we, in fact, have begun the process of revitalizing. Because Queen Mother Moore was my teacher. She said, that re word is an important word. The D is, deconstruct, dehabilitate, destroy. She said, I'd rather be really a regrowth than a Negro. Rehabilitate, revitalize, all that kind of good stuff. And so let me close by simply saying this. The National Urban League released this report on the state of Black America about 2 weeks ago. Mark Morial is a great leader of the National Urban League. But the report is interesting in that it's almost like the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's almost like you could say ditto, 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 ditto. Wealth gap is still there. Income gap is still there. Average income gap is still there. I mean, there's always these gaps between us and the other folks. They don't really change much, and particularly the wealth gap. And that wealth gap is because we never got paid for the work that we've already done. We never got paid. We never got compensated. And there will always be a wealth gap until we get paid. And the payment is not just, as Hillary Beckles has said, in terms of money. It's in terms of rehabilitating our psychology, our culture, our sense of who we are as a people, so we have the audacity to stand up and resist and fight. See, if we never got a dime, but we stood up as a people and fought back in this era, we would in fact have been successful. We have a state of emergency in America today, a state of emergency in Black America. We have a black family in the White House, but in the urban, what I call America's dark ghettos, there is a state of emergency. Every weekend, every day, a mother or family cries because our children are being gunned down on the streets of America. Unemployment, underemployment, a war on drugs. It is a state of emergency without urgency. And one of the things that we need to do in terms of being ready to fight back is to use the weapon that we have in our hand, more than $1 trillion of economic power that needs to be used to reward our friends and punish our enemies. We can do that. If on Xmas, we decided to keep Christ in Christmas and not spend any money until they paid reparations, the multinational corporations would come begging us if we had the audacity to use economic sanctions. So we got to get in shape. We got to get right. We got to get ourselves ready to engage this struggle. So brothers and sisters, on behalf of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century and our co-host, the Samuel D. Wood Proctor Conference and the Carruthers Center for Inner City Studies and of course this university, we thank you. We thank you. And we ask you really to fill out them cards, because that's a part of the war. We need to be in touch with you, so don't forget that. Fill out them cards, right? But more than anything else, we will do what we can in the Institute of the Black World 21st Century. We are establishing a resource center under this brilliant man, a resource center on the website, ibw21.org, so you can go there and find out anything you need to know about reparations. You can go to our website, you'll be able to find it. And if we had the strength, because Joanne Watson, you were there when we talked about this, when we were at the Congressional Black Caucus, they were ready to not even do the reparations session at the Congressional Black Caucus. I said, we have to do it. Because there's two new developments. One is listening to Martin Luther King, of all people, giving the justification coming out of this great leader. He gave the justification for reparations. And the next thing is this great emphasis coming out of the guerrilla. We have to continue. And so now we have to find a way, together, Brother Ari and others, as best we can, to continue the struggle. All the organizations moving in whatever way they can. And one of these days, in the by and by, hopefully we can have a great gathering where we can combine our energies, plot a strategy, and move forward, understanding that reparatory justice is not an option. It is an absolute necessity. I close in the Caribbean words of the great Maurice Bishop, and I ask you to all stand and say, forward ever, backward never, forward ever, backward never, forward ever, backward never.
I need to thank the provost. As one person, you did a good job, Ron. Give Ron Daniels a big round of applause. This is my buddy. But there are a lot of people at Chicago State University, even though I don't work here, I work at a sister institution, that related to me like I worked here and made this event successful. Sophia Edwards and Sister Yvette. But most importantly, the provost of this university, Dr. Angela Henderson. She must be around here. I don't know where she is, but she made all of this. Wayne Watson is the president, but Dr. Angela Henderson is the provost, and she runs the institution. And the reason that this event was successful is because the president has a great provost. And thank you, Angela, wherever you are.
Stand with me. All right, we're going to close on 7 Harambe's, right? We're going to leave strong, so y'all know how to do that, right? 7 Harambe's. Harambe means let us all pull together. And on the last one, you hold it as long as I do. And I'm an elder. And you dare not give out a breath on that last one. We want our ancestors to hear us up in here. 7 times. Ready to go. Harambe. 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 Harambe.
Right.